Project 2025. Now, I don't know about you, but just hearing that gives me the chills. But it's not only me. Thanks to Kamala Harris and most of the media, everyone's saying that this project is one of the biggest threats to our democracy. And if Trump wins, this project could push our country straight into a dictatorship. So then, what's really going on with this thing? Well, we could just sit down and read the 900 boring pages to figure it out, but you know what? I've got a much better idea. Today, I'm going to ask ChatGPT to break down the entire book, pull out all the key details, and finally tell us if we really need to be worried or if this is just some kind of media exaggeration. And yeah, with all of this information, I'm going to ask it to give me straight answers on Trump's connection to the project. Honestly, I don't have a clue what the AI is going to say, but this should help out a lot, especially if you're like me and you don't have the time to read all of that jargon. So we'll get into it in just a moment, but before we do, I've got one favor to ask you. Likes, shares, comments, it all sounds good, but what really helps is when you subscribe while you're watching. In short, your subscription tells YouTube to show this video to many more people. So if you want to support the channel, just make sure to hit that subscribe button right now because it really helps out a lot. Thanks in advance, and let's get right into it. And here we are. Now let me explain what I'm going to do. I'm going to feed the entire Project 2025 file into the AI, but to avoid going through all of those boring parts, I'll just ask it directly if there's anything we should be worried about. You know, like any threats to democracy or signs of authoritarianism. And as always, I don't want to read some soulless, boring text, so I'm going to tell it to be clear, straightforward, and not hold back. No extra words or sentences, just an unbiased and precise human-like analysis. So, I'm asking for a short list of topics without explanations for now, and we can structure the conversation. As you can see, we're starting with the first alarming topic, the overhaul of federal agencies and bureaucracy. And here's what it said. The plan to overhaul federal agencies is aggressive, aiming to take back what it views as an out-of-control bureaucracy. The authors see these agencies as a deep state that enforces regulations and policies without proper alignment with the president's agenda. Their approach isn't just about making the government more efficient, it's about tearing down what they see as obstacles to the president's power. This overhaul would involve slashing regulations, cutting budgets, and firing personnel who don't fall in line with the administration's vision. The idea is to force every part of the federal government to operate directly under the president's control, ensuring policies are executed without resistance. It means replacing career civil servants with loyal appointees, effectively turning agencies into tools that serve the executive branch's goals. But this move comes with serious risks. By gutting these agencies, you strip away the checks that traditionally prevent a single office from wielding too much power. It could lead to a scenario where the president can push through policies without pushback, creating a government that runs on one person's vision. The concern here is that it opens the door to ruling without balance, potentially reshaping the country without the usual safeguards that come from debate, expertise, and oversight. It's not just a simple reform, it's a power grab that could drastically change how the government operates. Well, that seems really scary, and considering what we just heard, I then have a reasonable question. Why would some Americans support this project? I mean, it seems illogical, don't you think? But let's ask the AI this exact question. Some Americans support this project because they see federal agencies as bloated, acting against the elected president and voters. They believe that these agencies push unnecessary regulations that limit economic growth and personal freedoms. To them, giving more power to the president is about restoring control to an elected leader, making government smaller, more efficient, and directly accountable to the people. They see it as cutting out unelected bureaucrats and putting decisions back in the hands of those chosen by voters. Well, then let me ask one provocative question. Do you think that the people who support it are mistaken? Yes, I think they're mistaken to an extent. While their frustration with a slow and complex bureaucracy is valid, concentrating too much power in the presidency can create bigger problems. It ignores the importance of checks and balances, which are there to prevent any one person or office from having unchecked authority. The system is meant to be slow and deliberative for a reason, to prevent overreach and protect individual rights. So while their desire for a more efficient government is understandable, this approach could lead to more harm than good. Oh, well, alright, let's make it clear once again. ChatGPT thinks that the people who support it are mistaken. Got it. Now, let's talk about eliminating DEI initiatives. And here's what it said. The project calls for eliminating diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI initiatives, across federal agencies, arguing that these programs push a divisive, ideologically driven agenda. The authors see DEI as promoting identity politics and fostering a culture of favoritism based on race, gender, or sexual orientation rather than merit. They believe that DEI initiatives undermine the concept of equal treatment under the law and inject politics into areas where it doesn't belong, such as federal hiring or education policies. The idea is to remove all federal references to DEI, gender identity, and related terms, stripping them from government rules, contracts, and grants. The goal is to create a system focused solely on individual qualifications and merit, free from what they view as unnecessary and harmful social engineering. However, this approach raises concerns. Eliminating DEI programs could be seen as ignoring systemic inequalities that these initiatives aim to address. It risks sidelining efforts to create more inclusive and fair environments, which many see as necessary steps towards genuine equality. Removing DEI might simplify processes, but it also risks overlooking or even worsening existing disparities in society. Oh, well, that sounds bad too, but I'm pretty sure this idea could still find a lot of supporters. Alright, well, let's move on to the restriction on public education content. Go on, ChatGPT. The project pushes for strict control over public education content, aiming to ban topics like critical race theory, or CRT, and comprehensive sex education. It argues that schools have become biased, advocating for an emphasis on patriotism, traditional history, and conservative values. The plan would use federal funding to enforce compliance, giving states and parents more control over classroom content. This approach raises concerns. Restricting educational content could stifle open discussion and critical thinking, limiting students to a narrow view of complex issues. It risks turning education into a political tool, rather than a space for diverse perspectives and learning. Wow, Project 2025 just keeps on getting worse. But unfortunately, that's not all. Now I have to ask it about economic policy and family structure enforcement, and here it is. The project seeks to use economic policy to reinforce traditional family structures, arguing that this model is key to a stable society. It proposes tax incentives and benefits specifically for married couples with children while discouraging policies that support alternative family arrangements. The idea is to create a financial system that promotes marriage and reduces single parenthood, encouraging a more traditional two-parent household. However, this approach could marginalize single parents, unmarried couples, and others who don't fit this traditional mold. By restricting support and focusing on a specific family model, it risks increasing economic inequality and overlooks the diverse realities and needs of modern families. Got it. Okay, at this point, we should already see that the risks are actually real, but let's still let ChatGPT piss me off with the last topic about control over independent media. The project advocates for tighter control over independent media, emphasizing the need to counter what it views as bias and misinformation. It suggests increasing government oversight and possibly implementing stricter regulations on media outlets that are seen as promoting divisive or anti-American narratives. This includes scrutinizing social media platforms to ensure they align with national interests and do not amplify dissenting or critical voices against government policies. There's a focus on promoting patriotic content and pushing back against media narratives that don't align with the administration's goals. While it frames this as a move to restore truth and unity, this approach raises concerns about free speech. By placing media under greater government control, it risks undermining independent journalism and the free flow of information, potentially turning media into a mouthpiece for the state rather than a check on its power. Yeah, you know what this all kinda looks like? It kind of looks like Russia. I mean, why bother with all of these restrictions and implementing them and all of that if we could just move to Russia together right now and that's it? Well, with everything we've heard today, I just want to ask ChatGPT if there's even anything good in the project. Maybe at least one thing that doesn't lead us into the abyss, you know? And here's its answer. The project includes some ideas that could have positive effects, like reducing government waste and increasing efficiency by streamlining operations. It also aims to empower states to make more decisions locally, which can strengthen democracy by giving citizens more direct influence. Additionally, the push for holding federal agencies accountable and enhancing transparency could improve how the government serves its people. However, these benefits come with risks, as the project's heavy focus on centralizing power in the presidency could undermine democratic checks and balances if not handled carefully. Exactly, ChatGPT. These are nothing compared to the potential risks. Now we're moving on to the last part of the video to ask the AI the most interesting question. Does it really believe that Donald Trump has nothing to do with this project? But before we find out that final answer, if you're enjoying this video, go ahead and hit that like button, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel right now while you're watching, because believe me, it'll really help to keep the content coming and help this video to reach more people. So, thank you so much, and let's move on to one final answer. So, ChatGPT. Is Donald Trump connected to Project 2025, and do you believe that he has nothing to do with it at all? Donald Trump claims he has nothing to do with Project 2025, but it's hard to dismiss the overlap between the project's goals and his political agenda. The policies outlined in the project, centralizing executive power, limiting federal bureaucracy, restricting public education content, and controlling media, are strikingly similar to the strategies Trump promoted during his presidency. While he might not be directly involved in writing or crafting this project, many of the people and organizations supporting Project 2025 are aligned with Trump's political ideology. This alignment makes it almost impossible to separate him from its influence. It's clear that Project 2025 embodies the America First mindset that Trump has championed. Additionally, Agenda 47, Trump's proposed platform for a potential future presidency, echoes many of the same themes and policy goals found in Project 2025. So, do I believe Trump when he says he has nothing to do with it? Not entirely. He may not be behind the project on paper, but its content and approach heavily reflect his playbook. Whether he directly contributed to it or not, this project clearly serves his vision for reshaping the federal government. In that sense, Trump is very much connected to Project 2025, regardless of what he claims. And there we are. That was incredibly helpful, don't you think? It seems as though the AI has saved us a lot of time reading it ourselves, but what do you think about it all? Have you read it, Project 2025? And if so, tell me in the comments if it was accurate in its answers or not. And right after that, click on this video where I ask it to predict Trump's future if he does not win the election. But make sure that you're ready, because ChatGPT is going to be rougher than ever. Thanks for watching, click on that pop-up, and let's head over there together.